Ethan stood outside the small but stylish restaurant, his reflection wavering in the polished glass. His blazer was worn, its edges slightly frayed, and though he had pressed it carefully that afternoon, it still looked tired compared to the sharp suits he could see on other men dining inside. He tugged at the sleeves, straightened his collar, and muttered under his breath, "You'll be fine. Just smile. Just be yourself." He checked his wallet for the third time. A single $50 bill rested inside, crisp but lonely. It was all he could spare after covering rent, groceries, and Lily's school shoes last week. $50. Barely enough for 2 meals and a drink in this place, but his friends had insisted he deserved one night to try. "Ethan, you've been alone too long," his best friend had said. "You're a good man, a good father. Maybe it's time you let someone else in." But for Ethan, dating wasn't simple. Not when every decision, every penny, revolved around his little girl. Still, when Lily had asked him one evening, her bright eyes full of hope, "Daddy, will you ever smile like other dads do when they're with someone?" the words had stuck in his heart. Tonight, he wasn't doing this just for himself. Inside, the restaurant glowed with golden light. Candles flickered on tables draped in white linen, wine glasses sparkled, and laughter from well-dressed couples filled the air. The smell of roasted garlic and butter made his stomach rumble, though nerves tangled his appetite. Ethan asked for the reservation under his name and was led to a small corner table. Perfect, quiet, a little away from the center, less noticeable. He sat, his fingers drumming lightly against the wooden edge of the table. Every tick of the clock seemed louder than the chatter around him. He glanced at the door again and again, waiting. Unbeknownst to him, someone else was already watching. At a large table across the room sat Vivian Hart. Her presence commanded attention without her even trying. She was elegance wrapped in a charcoal gray suit tailored to perfection, her hair sleek in a low chignon, diamond studs glittering subtly against her dark hair. Most people knew her name. Vivian Hart, the millionaire CEO who had built her tech empire with sharp intelligence and relentless drive. She had been called many things in magazines: ruthless, brilliant, intimidating. Few ever saw her outside the boardroom. But tonight, her eyes weren't on her companions. They were on the man fidgeting nervously in the corner. Something about the way he kept checking the door, the way he smoothed the creases of his blazer like it was his only armor, intrigued her. He didn't belong here, not in the way others did, yet there was no shame in his eyes, only determination. The door opened, and Ethan's date finally arrived. Clara. She swept in with effortless confidence, her red dress hugging her figure, her heels clicking smartly against the floor. Her lipstick was bold, her perfume strong. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on Ethan with a brief flicker of hesitation before she approached. "You're Ethan?" she asked, her tone polite but cool. "Yes," Ethan said quickly, rising to pull out her chair. "It's nice to finally meet you." Clara sat, crossing her legs. "Traffic was awful," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't apologize for being late, just waved for the waiter. Ethan offered a small smile, trying not to let nerves show. He wanted this to go well, though the pit in his stomach warned him otherwise. "Would you like something to drink?" he asked gently. "I'll have a glass of Merlot," Clara said without glancing at the menu. Ethan's heart sank. He had already checked the prices online before coming, trying to plan. A glass of wine here cost almost $12. That was nearly a quarter of what he had. Still, he nodded, forcing himself to remain calm. When the waiter turned to him, Ethan asked simply for water. "So," Clara began, stirring her wine once it arrived. "Tell me about yourself. What do you do?" Ethan cleared his throat. "I do a little bit of everything. Handyman work mostly, fixing things, odd jobs, deliveries here and there. It's not steady, but I manage." Clara tilted her head, her brow slightly arched. "That sounds flexible." "It has to be," Ethan said softly. His voice shifted when he added, "I have a daughter. Lily. She's 7. Smartest kid I know." A proud smile touched his lips. Clara's expression didn't mirror his. "You're a single dad?" "Yes." Ethan's tone held no apology. "It's just been me and her since she was 2. Clara leaned back, sipping her wine. "I see." Her eyes drifted briefly to the couples around them, as if reassessing where she fit into this evening. Ethan felt the shift in the air, subtle but undeniable. He quickly picked something safe from the menu, pasta with tomato sauce. Affordable. He could stretch the $50 if he avoided appetizers and dessert. He tried to keep the conversation going, asking about her job, her hobbies, her favorite movies. Clara answered, but her eyes kept straying to her phone whenever it buzzed, her smile polite but distant. Vivian, at her table, caught every detail. The way Ethan lit up when he spoke of his daughter, the way Clara's interest waned, the way Ethan kept sneaking small glances at the check as though already bracing himself. And as she swirled the wine in her glass, she thought, why is a man like that here, in a place like this? For the first time in years, the CEO wasn't thinking about contracts or profits. She was wondering about the quiet man in the corner with only $50 to his name, and a heart that seemed worth far more. Vivian Hart had sat through countless dinners in her life, charity galas, investor banquets, corporate celebrations, but none had held her attention quite like this one. The conversation at her own table blurred into the background, her business partners' voices reduced to a hum. All she saw was the man in the corner. He wasn't extraordinary by appearance. His blazer was old, his shoes scuffed, his hands calloused in a way that betrayed long hours of physical work. But there was something different in his eyes. A quiet strength, a tiredness that didn't crush him. And every time he spoke of his daughter, a light flickered there, one that Clara, his date, seemed utterly blind to. Ethan, meanwhile, was silently doing math in his head as the evening dragged on. Clara had ordered a second glass of wine, then an entree far beyond what he'd budgeted for. He stared at the menu, sweat beading at the back of his neck. His pasta and water seemed almost laughable against her steak and dessert order. He wanted to enjoy this, but all he could think about was whether Lily would be disappointed if he had to cut back on groceries this week. So, Clara said, dabbing her lips with her napkin, "Do you plan to keep doing odd jobs? Or are you thinking about a career?" The way she said career stung him, as though his work wasn't real enough, stable enough, worthy enough. Ethan forced a small smile. "I do what I can to provide. For Lily, stability comes from me being there, more than a title on a business card." Clara's lips pressed into a line. "I suppose. But, you know, for me, ambition is very attractive in a man." Ethan nodded politely, though his chest tightened. Ambition wasn't something he could flaunt in expensive suits or big offices. His ambition lived in simpler dreams, giving his daughter a childhood better than his own, saving enough to move them out of their cramped apartment, maybe one day fixing up the broken bike Lily had begged him to ride with her. When the waiter finally brought the check, Ethan's stomach dropped. It was nearly double what he had prepared for. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his wallet, praying he hadn't miscalculated. Clara didn't even glance at the bill. She was busy checking her phone again, her laughter chiming at some message. And then, before Ethan could slide the 50 across, a shadow fell over the table. "Excuse me," a calm, steady voice said. Both Ethan and Clara looked up. Standing there was Vivian Hart, the woman who owned half the room's attention without even trying. Clara's jaw nearly dropped. Ethan blinked, confused. "I couldn't help but overhear," Vivian continued, her eyes on Ethan. "I believe there's been a mistake with your bill. Allow me to take care of it." Ethan's face flushed instantly. "No, that's not necessary." Vivian smiled faintly, though her eyes were serious. "I insist." She signaled the waiter, sliding her own card across without hesitation. Clara gasped, recognition dawning on her. "Wait, aren't you Vivian Hart, the CEO?" Her tone shifted, sugary sweet. Vivian didn't even glance at her. "Yes, and tonight, I'd like to buy this gentleman's dinner." Ethan's pride warred with his relief. I can't accept that," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I came prepared. Maybe not enough, but this is my responsibility." Something about his honesty struck Vivian. Most men she encountered would have leapt at the chance to let her pay, eager to impress or flatter her. Ethan wasn't trying to impress her at all. He was trying to protect his dignity. Vivian leaned slightly closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "Then consider it a gesture of curiosity. I don't often meet men who look at a check with more courage than fear." Ethan blinked, not knowing how to respond. Clara, on the other hand, was practically glowing now that she realized who stood before them. Well, Clara said quickly, leaning forward, we were just finishing up. Maybe we could all. Vivian cut her off politely but firmly. I'm afraid I'm not here for company. Only for kindness. Her gaze lingered on Ethan one last time before she returned to her table. The rest of the evening was a blur. Clara suddenly became more animated, asking Ethan about his plans, hinting at wanting to see him again. But Ethan could see through it. Her interest had shifted only after Vivian appeared. The warmth he had hoped for wasn't there. By the time they left, Clara offered a quick, casual goodbye, already scrolling through her phone as she disappeared into the night. Ethan stood outside the restaurant, the crisp air brushing his face, feeling both lighter and heavier. Some date, he muttered to himself. A voice behind him replied, not all nights are a waste. He turned, and there was Vivian, stepping out of the restaurant, her coat draped elegantly over her shoulders. I didn't mean to embarrass you, she said. But I thought you deserved better than that. Ethan chuckled softly, though it was tinged with weariness. I appreciate it, really. But I'm not this world. Not the kind of man you probably deal with every day. Vivian tilted her head, studying him. And what kind of man do you think I deal with every day? Ones who measure life in numbers. Money, deals, assets. I don't have any of that. Just me and my little girl. And $50 I probably shouldn't have spent tonight. There was no shame in his voice, just truth. And Vivian, for once, didn't know how to reply. Silence hung between them until Ethan offered a small smile. But thank you, Ms. Hart. You didn't have to care, but you did. That means something. Vivian's heart gave a small, unfamiliar twist. She had sat across countless tables with men worth millions, men who boasted of their ambitions, their power. Yet none of them had ever spoken to her like this, with no agenda, no fear, no expectation. Just honesty. Maybe next time, Vivian said slowly, you'll let me buy you dinner. And perhaps tell me more about this daughter of yours. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. Next time. Vivian's lips curved into a faint smile. Yes, next time. You strike me as someone worth knowing, Ethan. For the first time that night, Ethan's chest eased, the tension melting. He thought of Lily, of her question about him smiling again. And as Vivian stepped into her waiting car, leaving him standing beneath the city lights, he realized something he hadn't in years. Life, unpredictable as it was, sometimes placed people in your path for reasons you couldn't yet see. And maybe, just maybe, tonight was the beginning of something more than a blind date gone wrong.